Hey everybody, welcome back to my coverage of the PogChamps 3 tournament. We're talking about the Rainn Wilson versus Michelle Khare match. It's tied at 1-1, which means we're going into an Armageddon game. If you haven't seen the previous games of this match, I'll put them in the card up there. You can go watch them first, and then you can watch this video. But this is the first Armageddon game of PogChamps 3, so how's it going to work? Well, White is going to get 5 minutes and Black is going to get 4 minutes, but if Black draws, then Black has drawing odds basically. So if the game is a draw, then it counts as a win for Black. Also, since the match is a little closer, instead of getting 3 points for the winner of the match and 0 points for the loser of the match, if a match goes to Armageddon, then the winner of the Armageddon game only gets 2 points, the loser gets 1 point. So kind of distributing those points more evenly since the match is more evenly matched. Rainn got to choose which color he wants to be for the Armageddon game because according to the chess.com accuracy calculator, he played more accurately overall in the first 2 games. So he got to choose which color he wanted to be, and he chose white. So he's going to start with an extra minute. I know both the clocks say 5 minutes right now, but they're going to update, or Michelle's clock is going to update to 4 minutes after the first move. So without further ado, I don't think I forgot anything in discussing the format of the Armageddon. Apologies if I did, but let's get right into the chess. So we have e4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, and b3. So we have the same opening as we did in game 1 where Rainn had the white pieces. And here Michelle plays d6, which I think is a big improvement on her previous move, which was g6. This d6 move is very theoretical, very principled in Sicilian, the Sicilian. So Rainn continues with fiend shadowing his bishop. He plays bishop b2, and we have knight f6. We have knight c3 and e5. So weakening this d5 square, which is common for Black to do in the Sicilian, but gaining a lot of control on this d4 square, and with White's knight on c3, it's going to be hard for White to control this square with the pawn. So you're giving up the d5 square to control the d4 square. It's a very common idea in the Sicilian. So yes, that's what's up. We have bishop b5 and bishop e7. Bishop cross c6, and this is kind of a weird move, maybe even an inaccuracy by Rainn, because you don't really want to be initiating trades for no reason. You also don't want to be really trading a bishop for a knight for no reason, because bishops are generally stronger than knights later in the game. So if you can hang on to them, that's usually a good idea. Also, with making this trade, you're allowing Michelle to capture toward the center and basically gain a lot of control over the center. You know, Black gave up this control of d5 when they played e5 and c5, but now they're going to have a pawn on c6 and they're controlling d5 once again. So so I don't like this trade from Rainn, but it's only a small inaccuracy at most, so it's probably fine, especially at this level of chess that these players are at. So we have b cross c6, and both players castle. We have knight e2, and this is a mistake because it simply hangs this e4 pawn. So here Black should just play knight takes e4. However, Michelle did not see this, so she played d5, and this is a counter mistake. So instead of capitalizing on Rainn's mistake, she made a mistake of her own. And here Rainn played e takes d5. And his idea is that he's going to trade this pawn, which was hanging, and then he's going to take this free e5 pawn. However, the way he did it isn't the most positionally accurate. It still wins a pawn. Probably more positionally accurate would have been knight takes e5, and then we could have something like Michelle would probably take this d takes e4, and this would actually be very good for White. We would have knight takes c6, queen c7, knight takes e7, picking up the bishop pair once again, and queen takes e7, and just knight g3. And Black has this isolated pawn, and White's also up a pawn. So this is going to be a very good position for White. That would have still won a pawn. So that probably would have been the most positionally accurate way to win the pawn. However, Rainn does it in a way that's less positionally accurate, but it still wins the pawn. So he plays e takes d5. After c takes d5, Rainn plays knight takes e5, and now Rainn is up a pawn. We have queen d6 and d4 defending the knight, c takes d4, and queen takes d4 developing the queen. So this is good by both players, I think. good enough. We have bishop f5 and rook ac1, just defending this c2 pawn, and rook ac1 is the best move. We have rook ac8, Michelle putting her rook on this half open file, pressuring the c pawn. Very nice move from her. We have knight g3, and here probably bishop takes c2 is the best move, because this is just a free pawn here and you can escape with your bishop no problem. But instead Michelle plays bishop g6. We have knight takes g6, picking up that bishop pair once again, and h takes g6. We have rook fe1, getting the white getting their last piece into the game, and we have rook a8. So this move does not make any sense at all. The only reason why I could see why Michelle played rook a8 is because she noticed this a pawn was hanging and she wanted to defend it. But putting your rook here just to defend this a pawn is just not something you should really be caring about in this position. And also, you can simply defend this a pawn with rook c7, and this a pawn is defended. It might not be the best idea to defend your a pawn like this, because it puts your queen and rook on the same diagonal. You might be subject to skewers from the bishop later on in the game. But if you're worried about this a pawn, you can simply play a6. But it's probably not even something you should be worried about. You could just play a move like rook fe8 and be fine. So yeah, rook a8, probably one of the most severe positional inaccuracies we've seen in PogChamps so far. But anyway, we have rook a8. We have rook e3 by Rainn and knight h5, and this is a huge blunder by Michelle. So the reason is simply after knight takes h5, you don't have time to take this knight because there's a checkmate threat on g7. However, Rainn counter blundered back. He did not take this knight. He didn't take this knight, take advantage of removing the defender of the mate. Instead, he just immediately played queen takes g7, and I guess he thought it was checkmate. However, this leaves Michelle with only one legal move, and it's a terrible move if you're Rainn Wilson, and that is knight takes g7. So I think probably what happened is Rainn noticed that if this knight moves, it's going to be checkmate on g7, so the knight can't move. But I don't think he noticed that if the knight moved to h5, or if it moved to e8 as well, that it now defends g7. So that's probably what Rainn was thinking. And he unfortunately lost his queen. So now Rainn is down an entire queen. So we'll see if he can bring it back. There is no increment, so there could be some possibilities of dirty flagging or major blunders in time trouble. We have rook ce1 and knight h5. And here you should definitely take this hanging bishop on e7. So instead of that, Rainn plays knight e2. So I think Rainn was afraid of trading the knights because he knew he was behind, and he knew that trades when you're behind are not very good. So he played knight e2 for that reason, I think. But here you just have to take this bishop. I mean, if you're down a queen and your opponent is giving you free material, you kind of just have to take it. So even if it results in a trade of another set of minor pieces, you kind of just have to go for it. But Rainn plays knight e2, so that's fine. Michelle plays queen c5. We have knight d4 and rook ac8. But this pawn is not being pressured at all because it's defended by the knight, so the queen cannot really do anything. And also, this bishop is still hanging, so this rook ac8 was definitely a mistake because this battery, it attacks the bishop twice, not just once. So Rainn does take this bishop now, which is definitely good. Rook takes e7. And here Michelle did not see that this rook defends this other rook, and she played queen takes e7. So probably what Michelle was thinking is, okay, in this position, my bishop is attacked one time, so if white takes, I can simply recapture, and it's going to be totally fine. But she didn't see that when this rook captures, now this other rook on e1 defends the rook on e7. So she probably missed that because she played queen takes e7. And after rook takes e7, we have basically an even game. We have white is down in exchange, but white has 2 pawns for the exchange. So it's pretty even here at this position, I'd say. We have rook fe8, and Rainn trades a pair of rooks. So now Michelle is threatening this back rank checkmate. So Rainn plays g3, and this move is really awesome because g3 is better than h3, much better than h3 in this position because h3 only gives some room for the king, but g3 it makes room for the king, but it's closer to the center, so the king is going to be more useful in the center in the endgame. Also, what g3 does is it takes away this f4 square from this knight. So for those two reasons, g3 is much better than h3, and it's very nice to see that Rainn played g3 instead of h3. Michelle played knight f6. We have knight c6. And this is a very tricky move because it's attacking the a pawn, and it's also a discovered attack on black's undefended knight on f6. So I wonder if Michelle will see that her knight is attacked. But she does not because she plays a5. I'm not sure what's up with this move because it doesn't even save the pawn. The knight can still take the pawn, but Rainn is not interested in that pawn. He plays bishop takes f6, and now he has two minor pieces for the rook, which is usually pretty good. However, Michelle has this fork, rook e6, so it looks like Michelle's going to win back one of the pieces, but it doesn't work after knight e7 check, king f8, and knight takes d5. The knight is saved and no longer attacked, and the bishop is defended by the knight. So it's all good for Rainn. This is a very winning position for Rainn, and we're even on the clock. So it looks like it's going to be a win for Rainn at this point, but anything could happen. We have rook e1 check, king g2, rook a1 going after this a2 pawn. Rainn could have actually taken this rook here, but he missed it because he played a4 instead, so simply defending his a pawn. We have rook c1 now going after the c pawn, and bishop e7 check. We have king g7 and bishop f6 check, so kind of a few meaningless checks here. Time pressure is a real factor, so sometimes you just have to make a move, and that's okay. We have king h6 and c4, now just advancing this passed pawn, and hopefully it's going to be a queen one day. We have rook b1 now going after the b pawn, and c5. Rainn doesn't care about that b pawn. We have rook takes b3 and c6. We have rook a3 now going after the a pawn, and c7. Rainn, once again, he doesn't care about the a pawn. And now we have rook c3, hanging the rook twice. Very bold by Michelle. But Rainn does not take it. He plays bishop e5 instead. Kind of weird because you're moving your bishop on this diagonal, but you're not taking this rook. It's almost as if he tried to take the rook, but his mouse dropped the bishop when it was partially way there. I'm joking, of course. Sometimes it's hard to see even hanging pieces when you're in this serious time pressure, and the number one priority is to not flag. So anyway, we have bishop e5 and we have rook a3. Kind of a weird move by Michelle again, but once again, we're in that time pressure. She probably just should have kept her rook along this c file, pressuring this pawn, because this move allows Rainn to just promote c8 equals queen, and we have rook takes a4, picking up that last pawn, but it doesn't really matter. Rainn has a queen now. He plays queen h8 check, king g5, and here Rainn has this beautiful mating net that it's hard to see even for an experienced player, but I just want to show it off with knight e3, and the idea is the next move is going to be bishop f6 checkmate, and there's absolutely nothing black can do to stop it. The only move that stops it, rook f4, leads to g takes f4, and now this is checkmate with the pawn. So just a beautiful mating net. I'm not surprised that Rainn missed this because this is a hard move to see, but I just want to show it off. Instead, we have h4 check, just giving another check, which is totally fine. We have king f5, queen f6 check, king e4, and now Rainn picks up the rook. There's a couple ways to do it in this position. Queen f4 is a skewer, but Rainn chose knight c3, which is a fork on the king and the rook. We have king d3, and Rainn picks up that rook. We have king e2, queen f3 check, king d2, and both players are getting very low on the clock. Rainn just needs to make sure he doesn't flag, and he will have this win. We have bishop c3 check, king c2, queen e2 check, king b3, knight c5 check, king takes c3, so giving up that bishop, but it doesn't matter too much. Michelle only has 7 seconds left on her clock. We have queen d3 check, king b4, queen b3 check, giving up the knight now, king takes c5, and queen c3 check, king b5, queen e5 check, and since there is no increment, this is when Michelle flagged and Rainn took the Armageddon. So Rainn gets 2 match points. Michelle gets 0 match points. I forgot to take a screenshot of the standings, but I think we have Logic with 3 points, and Rainn is at 2 points. Michelle has 1 point, and Tubbo has 0 points for Group C. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to say about this game or this match. But that's the standings of Group C so far. This was this match. Very good match by Michelle and Rainn. Great Armageddon game at the end, and great chess. Hopefully we can see even better chess from both of them as this tournament continues. And I don't think I have anything else to say, so be sure to check out my PogChamps 3 playlist, and like, subscribe, comment for more of this type of stuff. And I love you guys. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.